Hi there, this is Jeanette Comerford, and this is day 5 of my Christmas series for 2016. Today's video is going to feature a cute little card that is a little Christmas scene with some mice who are offering each other some presents. Now the stamp set that I used for this card is actually a My Favorite Things stamp set that is more fall or harvest themed, but I'm going to share how I was able to switch out a few elements and create a Christmas scene. So here's the stamp set. And I'll also be using this die set from Lawn Fawn. I'm going to be sharing that with you in a minute. It is the leafy tree backdrop landscape die, something like that. All the links were going to be below this video on YouTube or on my blog. And you can sort of bend it to snap them out of place the way I'm doing here. Or if you have a little pair of pliers, these are actually little cutters that I use for jewelry making, you can just sort of snip them apart. It's a little bit easier to do it that way. So I'm going to cut that out using some silver metallic paper. And I have a magnetic die plate underneath this so it won't shift too much. And I'll also be cutting out some snow. Now actually this is not out of silver paper, which I just said. It's actually out of Neenah cardstock. I'm going to be cutting out the background in silver paper. I was getting ahead of myself. So I used Neenah cardstock to cut out the tree and the little snowdrift that comes with it. So now I'm going to be using some silver cardstock, and I'm just going to be using the large rectangle stitch die from Lawn Fawn, which matches perfectly the landscape die, to cut out a background using that silver paper. So it's a little bit out of screen, but I do have the card up on the top there, and I'm just sort of arranging the mice and making sure these are the mice that I want to stamp. And I'll be using my Misty, and I'll be using some Memento ink, but this time it's going to be a lighter gray color. I didn't want such a dark black color. I want the lines to be a little bit muted. I want it to be a little bit softer. So using the Memento London Fog, I think it's called, will create the look I want. So I have all the marker colors listed on the bottom, and the mice will all be colored in these cool grain tones. And I'm just very quickly blending all the colors together. Now I'm going to be adding my shadow. And that pumpkin that you see the little mouse carrying is going to be magically transformed into an acorn. So I'm not really worrying too much about him. I'm not going to be coloring the pumpkin, and I'm not going to be too worried if I get a marker color over it. So I decided to deepen up the coloration here. I wasn't happy with the depth of the color. So that's what you see I'm doing here. And I'm sorry it's a little bit out of frame. But on the next mouse that you see me coloring, you'll be able to see it. I didn't realize I was out of frame when I was filming. This is the ear colors, or these are the ear colors that I'm using. I'm going to be using the same colors on all the mice. Now for his sweater, because it's quite a small area, I am starting off with my darker color, which is not what I usually do. And also because in this instance, I actually want to cover over the lines, the stamped lines. So I find it easier to trace them over with the dark marker and then blend my mid-tone and then my light tone over top. And also with the red, which tends to bleed, I really wanted to be careful. So that is his sweater. I'm going to make his little vest green. Doing the same thing, I'm tracing over top the gray stamped line on his vest and on his shoes, and then I will blend with my mid-tone, and then finally with my lighter tone. So this isn't a no line coloration, but it's sort of like a lighter line coloration. So it just makes the image look a little bit softer, and that's what I wanted for this scene because, I don't know, I wanted to be a little bit more magical. So now I'm coloring the second mouse, and you're going to be able to see a little bit better how I'm coloring it. I do start with my middle color. Just lay that in place. It gives me a good gauge of how much highlight I want on the image. I'm going to add a little bit of cheek color and ear color here. And then I'll blend out with my light color, which in this case is C00. And then I'll go in and add my the rest of my ear colors. For the coat, I am using shades of blue. And you can see I'm doing sort of the same thing, tracing over top that gray line. And you can see how the line almost disappears on the clothing because the clothing is so dark. Just blending everything out. I do find that when you start with your darker colors, sometimes it's a little bit harder to blend. And I guess that's why I usually do start with my lighter color. So just blending everything away. Going to add a little bit of green to the holly that he's holding in a minute, but right now I'm doing the scarf, creating a few extra fold lines there to make it look more realistic. Then I'll be able to blend everything out. I needed a little bit more darkness, so I went in back in rather with that marker. Now I'm just tracing out the holly and the leaves, adding a little red, and then I'll just use some yellow marker for the buttons. I wanted to define their eyes a little bit more, so I'm going to go in with a little black marker, and that just makes their eyes pop a little bit more, and I think it looks a lot nicer that way. So for the third mouse, I'm using the same gray colors, and then for his sweater, I'm using the same greens that I used on the vest and the scarf. So I'm not going to share the complete coloration for that because you've sort of seen how I'm doing it. So we're going to now switch over to how I made the background. So there's that silver cardstock, and I have a stencil from Simon Says Stamp. It's called Snow something, Snowflakes, Snow Dots. I'll leave the link. And I'm taking some embossing paste, and you don't need very much. Just using a palette knife to just spread it over the whole stencil, and then I go back over it and I put any of the excess right back into the container so that I can use it again. So you're going to want to let that dry, and you're going to want to wash your stencil and your mat right away. I did sprinkle, while it was wet, a little bit of Stickles glitter. This is like a dry, fine glitter. So I did that before it dried, and so now I have like a sparkle aspect to the snowflakes as well. And I'm popping that onto a card base. I did cut out another snowdrift using the Mama Elephant Landscape Trio dies, and that other one is from this die set that I cut out earlier. I'm going to be using some Score Pal tape just along the edges of the frame so that I can secure it. This could easily have become a shaker card if I had added some clear acetate onto that and then some foam. So that's probably something I'm going to try now that I thought of it. I'll probably do that in another video. So I'm going to add that to the top of my card. And I've cut out all the little mice, and I cut out the pumpkins they were holding. I took a present from this stamp set, and I took an acorn from this stamp set. And So I cut away what they were originally holding, and now I'm just going to pop those in place. That little mouse with the blue coat, he was already holding something that looked to me to be like holly, so I didn't have to do anything to him. So now I'm just using some glue dots. I'm going to pop them in place and just carefully position that present so it looks like he's holding a present instead of a pumpkin. And the same with this guy. So the trick was just to find something that was about the same size as what was originally on the stamped image, and then to just sort of finely sort of squeeze it in. I did have to add a little bit of marker there to cover up some white, and you can see that you can't really tell that the stamps didn't originally come like this. So that's my card. Thank you so much for joining me. A full list of supplies and links can be found below this video on YouTube or on my blog.